Richard Linklater's latest film Hitman cleverly incorporates the Freudian psychological concepts of human identity with ID, ego, and superego. The new Glenn Powell film features the Top Gun, Maverick breakout star in his most versatile role yet, playing a loner college professor who moonlights as an assassin for his local police department. Hitman also became Powell's highest-rated movie of his acting career after earning a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, slightly getting the edge over the massively successful box office hit Top Gun, Maverick, which earned a score of 96%. Already being considered one of the best movies of Richard Linklater's extensive career as a director and screenwriter, Hitman blends several genres to create a well-balanced mix of screwball/romantic comedy, action-inspired thriller, and classic film noir. Hitman is full of interesting twists and cleverly toys with the concept of identity through Powell's dual portrayals of Ron and Gary, but still effectively carries some familiar tropes of beloved action comedies. Hitman's cast is also led by Adria Arjona, who plays Madison, the unexpected love interest of Powell's Gary Johnson. Madison believes that Gary is actually Ron, a stylish, confident, and very dangerous trained assassin. How the ID, ego and superego work and relate to each other in psychology explained. The three combine to form a conceptualization of human identity. Sigmund Freud was one of the most revolutionary thinkers in the field of psychology. The Austrian neurologist is credited with inventing the foundation of modern psychoanalysis, the technique that identifies pathologies through the evaluation of conflicts within the human psyche. The Freudian concept of the ID, ego, and superego, as depicted in Hitman, deconstructs human identity and its primary influences into three key categories or provinces. The ID represents the most primal and basic desires and behaviors, while both the ego and superego are conditioned by personal, societal, and moral expectations. The ego, or the self, is essentially who you are on the surface and how others generally perceive you. While the ID province of the human psyche may want to have ice cream for dinner, the ego, or conditioned self, understands that having ice cream for dinner is not ultimately wise or healthy and restricts itself from satisfying the ID's desire. The superego extends this concept further through considerations such as the societal consensus or consequences of eating ice cream for dinner, such as feeling embarrassed or ashamed about being seen doing so. The superego informs and conditions the ego, which governs the unfiltered ID, and the three provinces combine to embody a conceptualized version of the self. How Freud's theory connects to Gary's Hitman transformation. Gary satisfies some of his ID's desires and alters his superego. Other than Gary's two cats being named ID and ego in Hitman, the Freudian concept of the provinces of the human psyche applies to the transformation of his character from Gary to Ron. Gary is a responsible and articulate college professor who is perfectly content with living a quiet lifestyle at the start of the film. This is Gary's ego, or conditioned self, that has seemingly been long established throughout his life until the events of the film take place. Gary appears as a model citizen with a strong sense of responsibility for his professional, moral, legal, and societal expectations, which can also be viewed as constructs. Gary's transformation into Ron allows some of Gary's repressed inhibitions of the ID to rise to the surface of his ego, which in turn creates a different relationship with his sense of moral and societal conditions and alters the framework of his superego. Because Gary is letting loose under the guise of Ron, his formerly strict and absolute sense of morality and societal duty are altered, especially since he's masquerading as a contract killer. Gary eventually gets caught up in his performative identity as Ron and ends up doing things that the old Gary would never do, such as lying to the police and helping her get away with murder by the end of Hitman.